Hello, everyone. I would like to welcome everyone to this free webinar. This is the next one. It's been a series now, so I'm super excited to do another one. I hope everyone had a fantastic holiday season. It's not over yet. So, this is a little bit of break between holiday and New Year's Eve. That's why I've decided to throw in one webinar to kind of closure this year. And hopefully, this webinar brings you something new, something interesting, and something which elevate your headshot photography. So today we will be talking about posing. We'll be talking about face expressions and micro face expressions. This is what I dedicated to discuss in this webinar. And so there's few rules we're going to kind of try to follow. This is going through YouTube, so there's a little bit of delay when it comes to actually streaming. So there is a little bit of, as I said, time gap between, I'm kind of showing this stuff and you guys receiving all this informations. But I will keep my open chat. So if you guys have any questions regarding what I'm talking about, you can ask me right away, and we will leave that at the very, very end, where we will have Q&A, and I'll be more than happy to answer all your questions. If you want to wait till the end, that's also an option. But as I said, I will try to answer all those additional questions you might have. We will be not talking about some technical stuff. I'm going to try to focus mostly on, as I said, face expressions, posing, and micro face expressions, even though I will be chatting a little bit about the lighting, because that's the foundation when it comes to headshots. And then, I know a lot of people are interested into that. I'm not going to go to very deep specifics, but I'll cover a little bit. So let's jump right into it and let's talk about it. As I said, I hope it will be interesting. I work on this webinar for quite some time to just bring as much value as possible, and hopefully, as I said, this will bring you something new to the table and will help you with your headshot photography. So let me start with, for those people who don't know me, I know there is huge group here who are new based on the emails I've been receiving from you guys. I've been doing hatchet photography for the last almost 15 years, so it's been quite some time, and I've been trying to push hatchet photography towards a little bit of different directions. As you probably know, I'm big fan of creative backgrounds, but that's not all of it. I'm trying to always kind of create something unique, something very interesting, so my clients get something that definitely gets their attention. um, as I said, it's been a while, so I'm trying to share those informations nowadays with all my fellow photographers and all the experiences which I have. I'm trying to kind of push it forward. Also, what I want to say is none of this stuff, what I'm going to be sharing today, it comes straight from my experience. There is nothing that I'm trying to kind of like push on you, or just kind of tell you things which they're not true. Everything is, as I said, based on everything what I've done over the last decade, and I hope this is gonna bring you, as I said, something that you can implement into your own work. Here, there's just few images from my last few years of work. As you probably notice, I'm really trying to create something different, unique, but definitely posing face expressions and micro face expressions can take your images to completely different level. And this is what I'm going to be talking today. And this is where we're going to dive really, really deep into this whole process of creating not only interesting images visually, but images which definitely send a message to the viewer, but definitely through face expressions. Okay, so let's kind of start from the basics. I know you guys probably have heard that countless times, and this is something which we've been talking about it for countless years, that lighting is not everything, equipment is not everything, that definitely the face expressions are something that can take your image to completely different level. And I want to just kind of like go a little bit through the scientific part of it, that the face expressions, that we form, basically we judge the image with milliseconds. Basically, as soon as we see the image, before we even judge, what do we see? Our brain automatically kind of makes this kind of message, what we feel about a person, what we feel about an image. And this is crucial because this is something that it's kind of like happening instantly. And I'm sure a lot of us experience that. We see the image and we right away either like it or we don't like it. And we even have a hard time to express why. So the face expression is definitely something that makes the call, and that's how our brain reacts to it. And that's why, in my opinion, this is something extremely important, and getting the right face expressions is crucial to get those headshots done properly, make those images basically look spectacular, and make the basically the person look approachable, confident, and we can not only see it, we can definitely feel it. So this is what I basically try to kind of summarize: is the human brain forms an impression of a face in a less than 1 second. That judgment is driven by expression, posture, and micro expressions, not by lighting or technical quality. Posing and expression shape perception before logic ever engages. And I'm not saying that the lighting is not important. I'm not saying that the equipment is not important. It's just the foundation. It's the basic. It's the starting point. The face expressions is something that it's basically takes the image to completely different level, and that's what we're going to be basically discussing today. Okay, so let's move forward. I just want to show you one image. Definitely, probably before you even analyze that image, you already have this kind of smile on your face. You already get some feelings from it, and that's what the headshot should do. I know this is not typical corporate headshot, but I just want to kind of show you images which definitely kind of create those emotions, create some feelings, create something that you already feel it. And, you know, this is something that we actually going after in every headshot session. I'm not saying we're going to create images like this, but images which have maybe a little bit subtle expressions, but still send the message. So before we kind of go into this, you know, phase expressions and micro phase expressions, I definitely want to talk a little bit about the technical foundation of every headshot. I know a lot of photographers focus on that part way too much, but I still want to go through it and just kind of share with you why this is kind of important, but only is just the kind of the basics, and this is just the foundation of entire process. So in my opinion, and I'm sure most of you guys agree with me, what is extremely important is the experience, not only for the client but also for us. So we need to create some kind of environment where the client feels safe, feels secure. And lighting sometimes can be extremely intimidating. Something that a lot of clients feels like, oh my god, now I'm just put in this big lights and I'm actually just have to stand here and then pose and smile and do all this stuff. Um, so we need to create some kind of environment which gonna make them feel safe. And the technical part of it, change over the last few years for me. And I talk about it in the previous webinars, but I want to kind of bring this up because that gives us the kind of good starting point. So most of you guys who are follow me probably know I've been using strobes, then I use speed lights, and now I turn into constant lighting. And the main reason I decided to do that, and then believe it or not, I had no idea about it, When I started working with constant lighting, um, my entire experience shooting headshots changed, and not only from my perspective but also from the client perspective. The constant lighting is giving you basically this safe environment where there is no flashes going off. As soon as the client get used to the lighting, it automatically feels better because there is, as I said, there's no flash going off, and we can work in the kind of environment where it feels much safer for the client, and also you can get way better results. The client can work a little bit longer. The client can feel that there's no flashes going off, which also affects how they behave, affects affects their face expressions, affects their micro face expressions. And it's not, I'm trying to sell anything here. There's countless different companies which makes LED constant lighting for headshot photographers. The main reason I'm talking about it is the fact that, as I said, the lighting definitely changes the way the client feels, and that affects the face expressions and affects basically entire photo shoot. So for those ones who are interested to know what kind of lighting I'm using typically three lighting setup: main light, kicker light, and the light for the background. It's all it's all constant lighting, so there's no flash going off throughout the photo shoot. It's a little bit of bright at the beginning for the client, but with, I would say, 10-15 minutes, everything changes. The client kind of get, or subject getting used to it, and you can start working with the subject the way that is not affecting anybody, and you will get way better results. I can guarantee you this. Everyone probably heard that a million times already. And I remember when I started with constant lighting, I was so against it. Nobody could convince me that it's better. But as soon as I started working with the constant light, it's completely changed the game. And I would never go back to strobes. I would never go to speed lights. And it's not just the constant lighting. It's just a kind of environment which makes everyone feel way better. I'm not going to go deeper into this. I'm going to definitely right now show you um, just a setup so you guys can know, everyone who is new and everyone who is interested in this. I'm just going to list it, all the stuff. As I said, main light, kicker light, background light, accent lighting sometimes, and reflector. And this is my whole setup for all my lighting. You can screenshot this if you're interested. You can also email me or text me or send me a message, and I'll send you all this information. And this is the lighting I've been using for the last several years, which basically create this entire setup. And this is not changing for years now. Every headshot session, I'm using the same equipment, the same setup, and it's pretty much um, the setup which it just kind of stay the same. But I want to share this with you because I know like a lot of people are extremely interested, and I know like if I don't mention that, a lot of you guys might get upset, and I this is the last thing I want. Okay, so let's move on to the headshot session, but let's kind of look at it from, as I said, the face expression perspective. So as I mentioned that few seconds ago, creating a and friendly environment is the key element to get good face expressions. I remember, and I'm going to share with you guys some stories based on all this stuff. I've been shooting my headshots all over the place, indoors, outdoors, whatever I found some interesting place, I was shooting it. And I know those locations extremely affect the outcome from the session. If I shoot, let's say, in the client house or my studio, or as office where the client feels safe, the face expressions were way better. If I was shooting outdoors, in some kind of like strange locations, back alleys, like you guys probably remember, I was all over the place. Whenever the client feel unsafe, or we have, I don't know, some bystanders or people who are staring at us, or the place felt kind of shady. The clients like literally, um, you know, they were showing their face expressions that it's not working out. And then, afterwards, whenever I was going through those images, I could see the fear, I could see the tension. Definitely the environment affects the shoot and what kind of face expressions you are gonna get. So this is something to remember. I know most of headshot photographers are shooting nowadays in the studios or some places where it feels safe, but just kind of keep in mind the environment you're going to create around your subject, around your client, the place where you're shooting, it's going to affect 100% what kind of face expressions you're going to get. The next one, building connection before the camera comes out. This is another huge thing. I know a lot of photographers out there, getting the clients and they coming in and they put them right away at the front of the camera and they start shooting. I'm not saying this is the wrong way to do it, but, and I know from business perspective, sometimes we don't have time, like, especially those high volume sessions where we're going through a lot of people. There's no time to conversations or quick chats or all this stuff, but this is extremely important. Like if you cannot build the connection with the person prior you put the camera, you start shooting, I can guarantee you that some people might be extremely challenging, because if there's no connection, people, of course, they're going to be stressed out, they're going to be a little bit kind of tense, and it's going to affect the session. So I'm not a huge fan of those quick shoots where you kind of put someone at the front of the camera and try to get the best shot as possible. I know we have to do it, but from the other hand, I found the best ideal scenario for headshot session is to know the person a little bit better, have some kind of conversation prior to shoot, try to kind of get to know them and build that trust before the session. Because again, this is going to affect the face expressions and going to affect the session itself. And every shoot I had where I knew the person a little bit more, then the session went way better. Also, what I found, what is interesting, every next session. So, for example, there's returning clients for coming in after, I don't know, year, 2 years, depends on the client. What happens is they trust me already. They have that connection, and those shoots not only go quicker, but I can get way better results. And if you have this kind of situations where you have returning client or you have someone who kind of comes back, I suggest to kind of go for those shots and see how much different they are. On the second session, there's definitely something that you already feel and see the connection. Explaining the flow of the session and how we communicate. This is huge one, and we're going to be talking about it deeper later on today. But you need to ex- explain to your subject exactly what you're going after, how you're going to communicate with them, how you're going to guide the session, what to expect, what they can expect from you, what you're expecting from them. It's huge, huge thing, and I highly recommend it to do that. It's going to put some ease on the subject. It's definitely is going to make the session easier. I know there's all sorts of different ways of communicating, and I'm going to talk a little bit about it, but they need to know exactly what's going on. Also, what I do, and I will be more than happy to send you like a PDF file where I'm kind of sending prior to the session to all my clients about how the session gonna go, what exactly we're gonna be doing, so the client can read that. Most people don't read this, unfortunately, but definitely is gonna help the client to understand what's going to happen, how the session is going to look like, what they can expect, because that's going to definitely put some ease on each person. um the next one, preparing wardrobe and setting the mood with music. I always do that prior to shoot, so that's also gives you a little bit of chance to know the person a little bit better. So I don't put any restrictions when it comes to wardrobe. My clients can bring whatever they want, how many outfits they feel they want to kind of be photographed in. It's I don't care. And from photographer perspective, I also noticed that some clothing definitely works well on the person, but as soon as you put the person in the front of the camera, everything changes and it's not looking good. So it's better to have more options, and that also gives you the time for changes whenever you feel that the session is kind of going tense. That's the best time to kind of stop the session, change the wardrobe, and that's kind of helps everyone to relax. And also using a music. I don't know if you guys are doing this, but I started using that kind of little technique for the last several years, and also that definitely changes the game. Um, some soft music on the background definitely ease everything, makes the person feel more calm. Um, Try it. I can guarantee you it's gonna help a lot. And this is something which definitely makes your session kind of more comfortable. And then it helps you to put this person on ease with some nice soft music on the background. I have some kind of playlist which I'm kind of like, so I don't have to just go back and forth and changing the music. Typically, I have this kind of like whole thing set up so I don't have to worry about it. Um, the next one, starting slowly and building confidence throughout the session. So this is something which this a little bit of kind of psychology behind it. I found every session has this kind of like a own flow to it. And what I mean by that, every session starts tense. Clients are nervous, they're stressed, the lighting, we have to figure it out, the clothing, we have to figure out all sorts of different things. And whenever you start, it's never starts with like getting the best shots. I found this whole thing has to be built throughout the session. And what happens is pretty much you're starting slowly, you just kind of trying to figure out what works best. The client or your subject is learning about how you work, especially if someone is the first time coming and they never experienced that before. So there's kind of like a learning process on both ends. Your end is pretty much trying to figure out what works best for the client, and the client is learning about how you work. And it's the kind of slowly kind of process getting the person into the groove and getting into the shoot. And typically what I've learned, and this is kind of interesting, the first 10, 15 minutes, even 20 minutes sometimes, I'm not saying like it's a waste of time because it's a learning process, but you're not going to get any kind of like crazy good shots, especially if someone comes in the first time. So take that time. Don't get stressed out. Don't get nervous. I know like a lot of photographers, they want to get, and I was the same. Was trying to get the shots right away, and you're not getting, they're getting frustrated. Take your time. It's a process. It's something that you need to kind of work towards to get those shots eh, the right way, because you have to put yourself into the specific, I would say, mood, and also your subject. I remember back in the days I had some interview with one of the top photographers, and I'm not going to mention the name, but he was telling me he takes tons of shots, tons of images. Like whenever he works with the client, it's just kind of like keep working, keep grounding, keep getting the shots. And then, at some point you will kind of get those images which you're looking for. But it's not like, you're going to snap the shot and then you get something right away, especially when it comes to face expressions. It's a definitely process which requires a lot of patience, awareness, and building the trust and building the connection with your subject to get them there. But also you have to figure out what works and how to kind of work with the subject to put them in the right state of mind to capture this one, maybe not one, but the image which really gonna speaks the way you want it. Okay, so let's move on. So let's talk about opposing. So this is something that a lot of people are interested in. I know there's different schools. Everyone is trying to um, do own thing, but there's few principles which I would like to share with you. This is something what I'm following through, um, and I know it's not looking kind of like comfortable sometimes for the clients, but that's what works best. So there's few things to what I want to talk about it. Um, First of all, what you want to achieve, you definitely want to have some kind of engagement with the camera, and the body language has to say it. So this is something that, like, I hate, let's say, maybe not hate, this is not, maybe this is too strong word, but I don't really like put my client on the front of the camera and stand them like, the soldier, and just to look at me, just stay straight. There's no kind of body angles, nothing. It's not working. It makes everyone uncomfortable, making the client uncomfortable, and let's be honest, makes also those images look really weird. And then, even if we don't see the body on the image, we can definitely feel it. So that's why this is so important to pose the person the way that it's not only looking engaging and look kind of like proper, but also, create this kind of like hidden, I would say, feel to the picture, which, kind of resonates a little bit later throughout the image. Okay, so let's go through those principles. So first of all, what I'm trying to do on each headshot session, and this is how I kind of pose my clients, is I'm always trying to make them lean forward. So whatever we do, and this image particular is a little bit exaggerated, and I just kind of want to show it purposely just so you kind of can see it. I'm not saying you should push it that far, but as I said, you have to kind of follow those principles to get those images done right. So, going back, first of all, what you want to do, you want to make sure that the client or your subject is leaning forward, and there's like a little bit of separation between their head and the rest of the body. So, whatever we're doing, they're pushing the body forward. So, typically, what I ask them to do is um, they don't have to stay straight. They have to push one leg forward, and put all the weight on it. So it's much, much easier for them to kind of control the balance, and they gently push their body forward. So that's the first thing. The second thing is definitely they're pushing their head a little bit forward to even to kind of separate their head from their body even more. And again, it's not something you have to kind of overdo it. Make those things very, very subtle. Also, when they push their body forward, what happened is you stretch the neck, and basically, you automatically remove this double chin problem sometimes. And I know a lot of people have a lot of concerns about it. So this is something that I always kind of engage to do. um, and also that pose gives you, definitely, when you look at those images, like the person is engaging with you. That's something extremely important on the headshots, because that's what we're going after, right? We want to make sure that whoever's going to be looking at those images, they want to feel that the person is engaged, with you. So that's the crucial, element. And from there, you can basically just move the person, to different sides, and they can switch the legs, from right to left. You can just basically do all sorts of different things. Also, what you notice, I don't like my images where, the shoulders are kind of straight. I like to have them a little bit in the angle, not too much, just a little bit. But also you have to find the balance, right? So you just make those very small adjustments throughout the process, and try to kind of find those shots which definitely are, you know the ideal. So it's, as I said, it's a learning process. It's something, but if you know the foundation is something that it's much, much, much easier. So this is mostly the way I work with my subject. But also, sometimes when someone is older, you can make them sit down, and just to make this a little bit more comfortable. But definitely, when they're sitting, you have to pay attention and make sure that, they're straight up, because usually what happens is when as soon as you sit them down, they started like, kind of leaning down and pushing the shoulders forward. Like as soon as they get too comfortable, it's not looking good on the image. So as a photographer, um, I don't think there's a problem with sitting them down, but definitely something that you have to pay attention, that they're going to sit straight and they're going to still do everything which you ask them to do when it comes to be engaged with the camera, and do all this stuff to get the shot done right. Okay, so there's few things when it comes to the posing. So this is just the kind of the basic stuff. So you've seen how this whole thing look like, but let's kind of talk a little bit about some other details when it comes to the posing itself. So the one thing what I kind of heard from so many clients is that a lot of photographers or headset photographers just let them stand at the front of the camera, and just basically they're on their own. Like they have to figure out, what to do, and stuff like that. So one of the key principles is to never basically just tell the client, okay, now just pose, just don't do that. You have to the guide the person, you have to make them kind of work with you, and you have to tell them exactly what to do. And usually what I'm trying to do throughout the entire session, I'm just changing them constantly. So you're adjusting. Okay, move forward, adjust your arms, chin down, and we're going to talk about some other details. So we definitely want to have them on the move nonstop. And the reason is not only to kind of get their mind off the photo shoot, but also you trying to find the best angles, the best pose, something what's going to work for them. Also, as you probably know, not there's no kind of rules when it comes like, oh, if you're going to do this pose, it's going to work. I found every client is different, every subject is different based on their body type, based on the clothing. There's all sorts of different factors. So you have to find the best pose for each person. It's like the face expression. It's not something that works for everybody. You have like one face expression and then it works for everyone. Everyone has kind of different different thing which works for them. And the same when it comes to the posing. You are the conductor of the session and you have to kind of push it specific direction to make sure to kind of get this stuff. And don't be afraid to move them, even if you kind of exaggerate certain things, or you kind of tell them like, turn your body to the left, turn your body to the right. Just keep working, just keep pushing, keep asking to change, keep adjust stuff, and keep shooting, and you will see that certain things gonna work, and a lot of things they simply not gonna work. um Even when the body is cropped, posture is still felt. So this is what I was talking about. Even if we don't see it on the picture, we can still feel it. So if the pose is off, it's not working and make the person uncomfortable, also it's going to reflect the face expression, right? So it's extremely important to make the person pose the way that it's not only make them feel comfortable, but also we can feel it by looking at the image that the person feels kind of right. Sitting versus standing, again, as I said, there's no kind of rules for that. I found either or work. I do both for most of my sessions, especially if those ones which are a little bit longer. You want to make sure that the client is comfortable. We talk about it. The body leaning forward is one of the key elements I found. Um, Push it all the time, and even I want to just give you example. If you talk to someone and someone is leaning towards to you, you want to talk to this person. You feel connected, you feel engaged, you feel like the person is interested in talking to you. If someone is leaning backwards, you can automatically sense that the person is not interested, and you feel it. And the same kind of applies to the images. Whenever the person is leaning backwards, and I'm not talking about this high fashion stuff, like I'm talking strictly headshots, you want to make sure that the person is leaning towards to you. And sometimes it's just we feel it through through the image that the person is engaged with you. um As I said, subtle angles adds depth and avoids stiffness. That's why, like, I hate those shots where, they stand like a soldiers. You want to make them in certain kind of angles, and that also helps with the shoot, right? Because also what I found, if the person is sitting or standing for quite some time and it's not moving, it makes them uncomfortable. Like, if even if you try it, stay still for like 5 minutes and don't move, like, it's gonna just affect your face expression, it's gonna affect your mood, it's gonna affect, like, okay, you start getting tense. So this moving part also is extremely important to make sure that the person is on the move, like literally nonstop. I have to tell you, like, it's interesting sometimes that my clients, after the shoot, they're like, I had no idea there's so much work involved. Why do I have to move so much? They thought it's going to be like a passport photo where they sit down and you don't have to do anything. It's something that it's not that way. It's completely opposite. They have to be on the move nonstop. Shoulders back signals confidence and openness. We've talked about it already. Use constant small adjustments. Again, we discussed that. Keep the chin slightly down, so the tension stay on the eyes. This is one of the things also I want to point it out, because like a lot of my clients kind of like laugh at this, because I always push their chin down, and they always like, why do we have to push the chin down nonstop? Um, and a lot of people, like, in their mind, I found that they think that if they're going to have a chin up, it's going to show their confidence. And actually what it's happening, the focal point become their chin, not their eyes. And if you see later on, I'm going to show you some shots where you can see when the chin is down and the focal point becomes on their eyes, completely change the dynamics on the image. So you want to make sure that the eyes are the focal point. That's why we always ask our subject to push the chin down and make sure that they in the kind of position where the focal point is their eyes, not their chin. um Relaxation creates natural expression, stress destroyed it. So we talk about it again, like, and now I'm trying to kind of summarize some of those stuff. The more relaxed the person is, the better shots you're going to get. So that's why we talk about this environment, music in the background. That's what going to makes them feel more open to you, and you're going to get way better images. So make sure that they relax as much as you can. Takes a little bit of time sometimes, but that's why we create this environment, and that's why we create everything to make them feel comfortable and safe. That's the crucial part. Finding the best angles takes time. Never rush the process. Again, we've discussed this. Everything takes time, especially when it comes to posing and face expressions. And we'll talk a little bit more about it. But don't try to beat it, because it's not going to work. It's going to work against you. And giving your time and your client a time to relax, to get those kind of, so you build the trust, you build the connection, and then you will start getting those shots. I can guarantee you that 100%. Okay. So, why facial? So now we're gonna move away from the posing. I hope that make all sense. If you need more information about how this whole thing works, again, please shoot me a message, and I'll send you like a PDF file with more details. But I think I just want to share the basic principles, what I'm using for my headshot sessions to kind of get the posing right. Okay, so now let's move on to um, facial expressions and why they matter. So we talk a little bit at the beginning. The face, primary source of emotional information. Expression determines how a person is reading, not how they look. So basically, the face expression sends the message, right? This is the key element, which basically tells us if the image is good, or we have some kind of like feelings towards it, or the image is good or bad. And it's not the lighting, it's not the equipment we're using, it's not even those interesting backgrounds. None of this. The face expression, I found, is the key element of every headshot session. And I'm sure we've seen a lot of images, and then when there is this interesting face expression, there's something about those images which we cannot even explain. It's just the brain automatically kind of gives us the impression, tells us what we feel, and basically takes over everything. And I know some clients and sometimes even photographers, we care about, oh, like I want to make sure that the lighting creates this specific mood. Yes, it is. But again, the face expression is the final nail to the coffin, which makes our decision about a shot if this is good or bad. And that's why this is so important. So we're gonna divide this facial expressions to two parts: facial expressions, and we're gonna talk a little bit about the micro uh, face expressions. So the facial expressions can be controlled. I know there's some discussion how many exactly facial expression is. This is now fixed number. I know this whole thing is changing. The scientists look at this from kind of different perspective, but the key difference is the facial expressions, they can be controlled by the person. Micro face expressions, they comes from subconscious, and they're coming between the facial expressions, and they're not controlled. They're coming for a fraction of the second, and they kind of go away. But we're going to discuss how we can kind of deal with both of them, and how we can control this whole process throughout the photo shoot to get those shots with the proper and those interesting facial expressions. So there's now we're going to go into some details what makes these facial expressions strong, and that's what's going to make those facial expression interesting. Let me give me a second. I'm going to just have a sip of tea. I'm just like, I feel like my throat is going to kind of going dry. Okay, so now we're going to look at this from completely different perspective. I know there's different schools. People talk about it differently. And before we get into some details, I kind of divide this whole thing into some. I'm gonna basically what I'm trying to do here is I'm gonna try to do some show you some elements which are important, but from completely different kind of perspective, from photographer perspective, and what to look for and what we're going after. Because I think everyone can say, hey, I need like a good face expression, but what that even means, like I took me years to figure it out, what makes good face expressions. Because as I said, there's no kind of one specific face expressions which is going to work for every person. I found that there's people who look amazingly with like soft smile, kind of strong, let's say, eye connection. But there's some people who like look way better when they don't smile, and they have this little bit more serious tone to their face expression. So there's no kind of principle which could say, okay, you need to smile on the image, or you have to look certain way. Because also I found there are specific face expressions which work for specific people, and everyone is different, unfortunately, and we need to figure it out as a photographer to what works best for the person. And at the same time, we need to understand the principles, and we need to understand those smaller elements which basically make face expression strong. So the first one, what I want to point it out, is strong eye connection. This is huge, and if you don't have that, again, this is not going to work, and then you can really see that there is something missing in the image. um, and having that strong eye connection, it's important. But also, like, I notice through a lot of my sessions where there is no connection, there's no trust, and the person is kind of like, I don't know, occupied by some stuff in their mind, they drift away and they look at you, but they're not there. And I can kind of sense nowadays that, if someone kind of mind drifted, and then, they look at you, but their mind is somewhere else for whatever reason, you losing that strong eye connection. So typically what I say to my clients, I don't want you just to look through the lens or look at, like look at me, or, like connect with me, but I want you to think about it. This is huge. This is something very important, because if they focus on you, they focus on the lens, they focus on what's happening, then, the face gonna show it. If there's no interest, or they think about something else, the body structure for whatever reason changes, and literally you lose that eye connection, and you maybe not losing the images, but what I'm saying is you're not going to feel that strong, and those images, they're going to feel like, okay, the person is there, but it's not there. So whenever you're shooting your headshots, make sure you are not only constantly engaged, but you're reminding your subject, like, I need you to be present, I need to be connected, I need to make sure that you are here, not only just by like physically, but also mentally. I want you to be focusing on what we're doing nonstop, and it's draining. I can tell you that for a lot of my clients, they're saying, like, you know what, after just focusing so much and thinking about it, it's just really, really, it's really tiring. I can tell you that. Okay, so the next one, authentic smile. This is the next one. To get that, also, it's not easy, because whenever you say to the clients, and this is something what I always say, never say smile, because that's going to ruin everything, and typically it's going to just make those images look worse rather than better. So what you want to do is you having conversation, you navigating the conversation into the places where the person can naturally smile, and then smile authentically. So you paying attention, you're having conversation, you're navigating through all sorts of different topics, and you try to find the place where make the client or your subject smile authentically. And you can really see it, and you can really feel it. If someone smiles authentically, you can sense it. If someone's faking it or try to push it, it's noticeable, right? And you can see on those images. And as I said, it takes time. It's not something you're gonna just pull it off. Like, I know there's some clients who really can do that on the spot. If you work with actors, or people who've done this before, or they know how to, or they naturally smile. Like, I know also there are people out there who, they come at the front of the camera, and they have this personality which just like smiles all the time. It's much easier, but it's difficult for those ones who, they stress, they're nervous, to get something authentic. It's not easy. So that's why, as I said, it's the process, it's a time to getting them to that spot where they can actually smile authentically. And when you capture that, I can guarantee you're gonna see it, you're gonna feel it, and when you look at those images, you're gonna definitely um, notice that this is authentic smile. Okay, the next one, intentional gaze. So that's another one. Like, I like those shots where the person is not like super smiley. I know, like, for a lot of photographers and headshot photographers out there, that's what they're going after. Like, I want to make sure that the person looks approachable, and then kind of like, I don't know, they smile, they're positive, all this stuff. But sometimes, I always play with my subject with all sorts of different face expression, and try to navigate the shoot through all sorts of different things and see what works best for them. So in this case, I captured this moment where she just kind of gazed at me for split of the second, and I was able to capture that. And and I really love this shot. It's kind of interesting, has this like little mystery, but also, as you notice, even this gaze is intentional. Definitely, there's still strong eye connection, where she's extremely connected with the camera. And it's just the body language is just the kind of like, this gaze which gives you this interesting feeling from the image. Okay, relaxed state, this is another one. Sorry. um this is also one of the most key elements where you can sense it. When someone comes in and they're stressed and they're nervous, and like, you can see the tension in their body, and you can really, really feel it, that the person is struggling to get relaxed. But with the time, with discussions, with conversations, with all this stuff, what do we do? We get to this moment where you can really see they are relaxed. And typically what happens is, like in this case, you can see the shoulders are down. The face has this kind of like relaxed states. She's not really pushing the smile, like, she feels safe, she feels relaxed, and you can see through their eyes, through the body language, and through their face. So that's something that also you're going after. So you also have to pay attention not only to the face expression but also to the body language. And whenever you kind of reach that level and you start getting the shots, you can really feel that the person is relaxed. And the face says that. You can really feel it. And it's gonna definitely takes you to the point where you can get some interesting images with that state of mind. Okay. Expression and body in sync. So this is the images which I shot on that session what you guys seen, the posing. So this is something which is extremely important, because the body language also kind of, I have to say, affects the face expression. If the body is in the position where like you feel engaged, you feel kind of like and you feel it that the body and the face kind of comes together. So this is another element, right? Because if you basically have the person who's not comfortable, I don't know, stands too long, and they start grouching, and then the body kind of like tells you the story. You can also see the face also is going to affect that, right? So that's something that you have to also pay attention. It's not just the face expression, but also the body language, which kind of align with the face expression and the body language align together. And then you can really also sense that. And that's another key element which you have to kind of look after. Calm confidence. So this is another interesting one. So this is more for, I would say, the corporate stuff, right? Especially when you shoot CEOs or some, business owners, or like high profile people. When you can feel it that they calm and they confident, and they also have the strong connection with the camera. Um, this is the kind of state of mind which I'm always looking whenever I'm shooting with the corporate world, that, I want to get, because that's how they want to look like. They want to look confident, but also they have to look calm, because if they're confident but they're stressed, that's usually, it's not a good sign. And you can really sense it from those images. Sometimes comes quicker, sometimes, takes time, but having that kind of face expressions where you can feel confidence from them, but also they're calm. That's something which you have to kind of go kind of after. But again, we're going back to the principles. If you can create the environment where they feel safe, secure, you can make them calm, um, you know, and you can kind of make them relaxed, then, you can also capture that confidence. Okay, emotional presence. This is another one. Interesting, where people showing you kind of emotions, but you can really feel it. This has never happened at the beginning of any shoot. That's kind of also take comes with the time. And like I've been having sessions where people getting extremely emotional, because it's fascinating for me whenever I'm shooting. Everyone comes with all sorts of different problems, or issues, and emotional baggage. um, but for whatever reason, headshot sessions is really opening up a lot of those guys, right? And you can really sense it. And then when they trust you enough, and when you build that kind of connection with them, they can showcase that through the images. And that's why I think a lot of headshot photographers love what they do, because they can get to the point in the session where the people really opening up to them. And they can showcase all those emotions, and you can capture them, and you can bring all sorts of different interesting things to the surface throughout a session. So yeah, this is another thing which you can also, um, this is one of those elements which definitely changes the game, and it can bring something interesting into their face. Engage smile. So this is another one. This is something which I think a lot of photographers going after, where the person is trusting you, is connected. And and also what I say is, smile is not just the lips. I found that people can smile with their face, with their body. You can really, really feel it and sense it. And then this engaged smile, which means that if you are shooting with the subject, and they can, as I said, they can trust you, they can really um, follow your guidance, and then at some moment they can kind of like throw you this very unique and specific trustfully smile to you, and you can capture that. I think that's something which is it's priceless, right? Because that's the kind of shots we're going after. It's not overdone, it's not pushed, it's not forced. It's something that kind of happens automatically, and happens kind of like through building that trust with the subject. And this is the last one, is in interpersonal flow. And what that means, this is something that I think a lot of photographers is like a dream come true. And what I mean by that is when we have clients where we really can get into their world, and we can really feel connected, and they can just like opening up 100% to you. And you have this eyes engagement, you have this body strong body language, you have this connection, and that's where you can kind of get this amazing shots, which really tells the story, tells that the person who is at the front of you really, really trust you, and can 100%, as I said, open up to you and create that face expressions, which really kind of resonates. And the reason I shot this, I'm showing this image, because I remember working with that particular person, and she was extremely stressed out, and then she was really tense, she was really nervous. I think she just got the job that the shoot was for some, I remember, um, there's some law firm, whatever. And she just started there, and she wanted to like look good and impressed everybody. And I know like she was extremely stressed about a session. And after I think like 10 minutes of working, like she started like really nailing every shot. Like she really kind of connected, really open up, and really kind of like get involved, not only like emotionally, but like I could really sense it that she's all in. And I'm sure a lot of you guys who are shooting headshots, you have those subjects or those clients who they come in and they like dedicate 100% themselves into the shoot, and every image, it's a kind of like it's a keeper, right? So this is the kind of like state of mind of you and the subject, where you like completely align. And as I said, like every image is the keeper. And I wish we have more clients like this, or we are able to get to that moment where like this is it, like this is the peak of your session, where you getting those shots. So that's why I think it's extremely important, and I'm sure a lot of you guys experience that. And I want to share that with you because you know every headshot session, as I said, it's a process, it's something that you have to get the person to this certain moment or a certain mental state where they can trust you, and you can get those shots, and you can see it through their face expressions. So this is the peak of the moment where you are, as I said, on the top of the mountain, and you just getting those shots, and then like, okay, this is it, this is like it's not getting better than that. And I remember I posted shots on some several um photography groups, whatever. And then I remember like a lot of people like really got engaged, and it really kind of like feel it the same thing what I felt when I shot this. And then like the image got a lot of attention, which tells me that it's not only me kind of like making stuff up, it's just like other photographers or a lot of like other people who can really, really feel the same. Okay, let's move on. So principles of facial expression in headshot photography. Expressions are guided. This is something, of course, it takes time. We need to guide the person. We have to. It's like the journey we are on, and the subject is, with us, and we need to go through all sorts of different things to get where we want to go. Relaxation comes before expression. The more relaxed you are, the better stuff you're going to get. The eyes lead every expression. We talk about it, and this is why I started. The eyes always are the most important, as you always probably, you also know probably about it. The eyes are the door to the soul. I deeply believe that, and that's really reflects on headshot photography. Um, Trust emerges gradually. Again, we've talked about it. It takes time to build that trust, especially if you didn't work with that person before. Extremely important. And you have to give yourself time. You have to give time to your subject, and then eventually you will get there. Um, Authentic moments happen between directions. So, this is another thing which I didn't mention. You are basically nonstop on the lookout, and you basically direct the person by you paying attention what's happening. And as I said, the best moments happen between the directions, when you're going from one thing to another. That's where people become more authentic. So never kind of let the guard off. Make sure your camera is always kind of like on the lookout, and you're always paying attention, and then whatever is happening, you always ready to get this shot, because you just don't know when those things happens. Expressions follows trust, not instructions. So again, you can instruct, you can guide the person, but if there's no trust, there's no connection, you're never going to get this amazing face expressions. So you building the trust throughout the shoot, and the more trust you build, the more connection you have, the better stuff you're going to get. So that's something which is extremely important. And lastly, again, I'm sure everyone experienced that the best expressions is often unexpected. So again, pay attention, because you just don't know when that person's gonna give you that expressions, which is the killer, right? So that's why we work towards it, but we have to be very, very sensitive, and we have to pay attention, and we have to just make sure that if this moment happens, we're ready to go. Okay, let's move on. Okay, now let's jump into the microphase expressions, and let's discuss this. So microphase expressions are brief, and they happens quickly, and they, as I said, they cannot be controlled. They comes from subconscious, and this is something that it happens even quicker than the facial face expressions, right? So this is something which, um it's extremely, I'm not saying rare, but what I'm trying to say, we have to really pay attention to them, because we cannot just really direct someone and say like, hey, do this, do that, and sorry, and they're gonna happen. You have to pay attention to what's happening, and they just literally happens between face expressions. And just so you know, which is also interesting, scientific fact, that there is there's no fixed number when it comes to the face expression, but there's about 30 plus minus. This whole thing is changing, but there's apparently over 10,000 microphase expressions when it comes to humans' face, which is just insane. And we can really feel it, and we can read the person through face expressions. And this is just the best example I can give you. Like, how many times you guys talk to someone, and it seems like from one hand the conversation is going well, but from the other hand, there's something off, there's something not right. And I can tell you those are the micro face expressions, because we have really hard time sometimes to read them, but our subconscious can really, really sense them. So the person who is sending them also is kind of like unaware of that. So if someone doesn't like you, or I don't know, have some issues with you, or I don't know, there is something going on behind the scene, which the person is not capable of telling you, but like the microphase expressions are showing you that. You can also sense that, and I'm sure most of us at some point in our life experience that, where we talk to someone and then, like, it's something is not right. And as I said, this is where is coming from the microphase expression, that someone is telling us something through the microphase expressions. Our brain is picking that up, read it, give us the kind of gut feeling that there's something not right, but we don't really know what's going on. And that's what basically makes us kind of get this feel that there's something not right. And those are, as I said, the microphase expressions. Okay, so I want to show you these images because I found the kids are much easier to express the microphase expressions. And they can just not only show their emotions, but what is fascinating for me working with kids, they can just like throwing all this stuff unexpectedly. With adults, a little bit of different story. I found that we are more in control. But when it comes to microphase expressions, a little bit different story. We also can control them and kind of submit them a little bit more. With kids, a different story. And that's why I want to show you those images, because I remember working with that girl. And not only was a blast working with her, but showcasing those face expressions and microface expressions was just so obvious that she was nailing it. I wish adults could have that too, but unfortunately, the older we get, we try to hide some of your stuff. Basically, it's a little bit of different. And working with adults, it's a little bit more challenging, especially when it comes to microface expressions. Okay, so we're not going to go deeper into this because I'm going to share with you some books about microface expression. This is another like huge topic, but let's kind of have these principles and let's kind of talk a little bit about it. And then also, like, in a second, I'll show you some amazing book where you can really dive into the microphase expression and how you can easily apply them into the headshot sessions. So micro expressions are subconscious, not intentional. So we've talked about it. This is extremely important because people don't. You cannot just say throw me that microphase expression because they're happening automatically. So as I said, with the time, we need to learn how to capture them. It's not easy. It's much more difficult. It's much more challenging, especially as I said, they're not intentional, but you have to pay attention. And I think with the time, what I've learned that you can navigate, and sometimes people kind of like throw them at you once in a while. If we are able to capture them, it's a different story. Sometimes we're lucky, sometimes we are not. But they happen instantly and they go away instantly as well, right? So that's something what you have to kind of understand. As I said, yeah, they last fraction of the second. They reveal emotional truth, not performance. So you cannot really perform microphase expressions. Working with actors or people who are experienced, they can mimic some of those phase expressions, but they cannot really mimic microphase expressions. And that comes from the trust. So again, we're coming back to the roots. Building the trust is one of the most important element of the headshot session. The same like phase expression, they appear between directions, so you have to pay attention what is happening. And if you are in that kind of mode where the person is kind of throwing some face expressions and they just jumping from one thing to another, pay attention what's happening. And I'm not saying also like you just firing like crazy to get those microphase expressions, but I'm sure some of them they are predictable. And then if you see that person's going to the certain mood, or I don't know, certain kind of place, you can really be ready to capture them. Relaxation allows micro expression to surface naturally. Again, basics. The more relaxed the person is, the way better it's get interesting expressions out of them. So the environment, again, it's one of the crucial elements. And then we're back to the roots again. So it's kind of like similar to the face expression, but they're not controlled by the person. That's, I think, the main difference. Observation matters more than instructions. Again, we pay attention. And I think the more we shoot, the more we work with different people, you are more aware of those, and you can really kind of be able to capture them. So that's something which is extremely interesting. So again, the more you shoot, the more you work and work with different people, it's becoming more obvious and it's becoming more clear to you. You know, you can really, really see those microphase expressions. Timing the shutter is more important than repetition. So again, sometimes those moments come and go, and unfortunately, we cannot repeat some of those moments. So that's why, having camera ready nonstop and being kind of, I'm not saying glue it to the camera, but be ready when the moment comes, you can capture it, right? I have those situations. I remember back in the days, even not right nowadays, sometimes where you're shooting, and then I don't know, you put the camera down or whatever, and then the person gets into this like mindset, or I don't know, you say some joke or something happens, and then all of a sudden, like you have the best images ever, and you miss it, right? I'm sure most of you guys experience that, right? So that's something that it's part of our job. There's nothing what we can do, but if we are aware of it, then we know like every session, like you have to pay attention all the time. Okay, so those are two books which I highly recommend it. They are by Vanessa Van Edwards. The Captivate is a little bit older one, but also have a lot of informations about face expressions, how to recognize them, what is important, all this cool stuff. The red one, the cues, also is fascinating book. It's also talks about the body language, all these interesting things. Highly recommend it. If you're a headset photographer, please make sure get those, read them, like study them, because they will give you a lot of cool stuff. Okay, posing. So now let's summarize all of it, and now we're going to get into the Q&A. When it comes to the posing, to summarize, never ask the subject to pose on their own. Talk about it. The body influences how the face is perceived. Again, we've discussed that. Small adjustments create major changes. So again, don't go from one extreme to another. Very small adjustments, but keep changing the pose nonstop. This is one of the key elements. What I always tell all the photographers: never plant the person in the front of the camera and expect they're going to do this for you. You have to work with them, but also you have to changing them all the time and just find the best pose for that person. Relaxed posture reduces facial tension. Again, the more relaxed you are, the better face expressions you're going to get. And that's why, like the posing, you're starting with the posing, and the face expressions should follow what you're doing with their body, with their face expression. Posing must support the expression, not compete with it. Again, we talk about some of the details, how to pose, how to kind of make the person feel comfortable, relax, and all this stuff. So it's like a complex process, and everything has to align together. So it depends on the person, depends on who you're working with, how much you can push it. Then it's going to affect the image, going to affect how this whole thing kind of turns out. Okay, face expressions. Let's summarize. Never ask the subject to post on their own. Um, sorry, so I think I missed that. Sorry, I just okay. So I think I just put the same ones. So when it comes to the microphase expressions, what to watch for, it's kind of applies to the face expression as well. Microphase expressions are subconscious. I know I'm repeating myself right now, but like I'm trying to kind of summarize. They appear before the face settle into the control. So as I said, they are between the main face expressions. That's where the microphase expressions appears. So paying attention is one of the most important things. They happen between the directions. We've again talk about it. Don't chase micro phase expressions. Observe the transitions, right? So I think with the main thing is we know what we're going after, what we're looking for, but don't chase it and not try to force it. That's I think one of the most important things. The same, like you want a natural smile of the person or authentic smile, then don't try to tell it like, smile or do this or do that, because it's not going to work. You have to take the person to that state. You have to make that person to that place where, they're going to do this naturally. That's the main kind of message I would like to share with you. Yeah, timing the shutter matters more than the repetition. Again, this is like the summary. So always be ready. So that's something that it's important, as you don't want to miss it. And as I said, those things always happen unexpectedly. Always, I can guarantee you. And whoever is shooting professionally probably knows that. So the final note: lighting shapes the image. That's how you create the mood. How to create an expression is the message. So that's the main thing. And now, if you guys have any questions, I'll be more than happy. We are past an hour. I hope you guys not bored already with all my talking. I know we're repeating a lot of stuff, but I'm trying to kind of get through this, to kind of show you, what exactly I'm trying to kind of share with you. So if there are any questions, let me know. I'll wait for a few minutes, and then we'll wrap it up. So there's, have you ever thought about filming in 6K or even 8K and use some of those frames as a portraits? No, I never tried that. To be honest, I actually heard about it. Someone was doing that. Um, like, it's a good idea. Um, Definitely, you can do that. I think going through those shots would be, quite, I think, time consuming. But I think it's a great concept. You can maybe shoot and video at the same time, and then kind of capture some of those stuff. Yeah, never. Well, I've heard about it before. I don't know how this whole process end up and how those images look like. But yeah, yeah, it's a great idea. But personally, I never tried it before. So, but yeah, it sounds like something could work. Yeah. Is there any other questions? No questions. I know there's a little bit of delay on when this whole thing gets to the YouTube, but let's wait a couple more minutes. Did you see a difference with the clients who actually read your prep document? That's a good question. You know what? To be honest with you, like, I don't know if they really read it, because most people tell you, yeah, I did, but usually they kind of go through it and, don't really kind of understand the whole process. Um, but I think, you know what, like, the reason I'm doing this is, like, there's two reasons. One is, definitely, you want to give them some kind of guideline. I'm going through this stuff with them anyways, right? So that's something that, they have to listen anyways. But planting something into their mind before always kind of, in my opinion, would give them a little bit more better understanding. um, but to be honest with you, every person is different, right? That's the kind of another interesting thing, that every person who comes to us and do the headshot is different, right? There's people who coming and, they open, they have this personality, which, kind of makes the shoot really, really easy and then enjoyable, and, like, you're getting amazing stuff. But there are people who, they interested to work with you, and they want to do the headshot, but they stress, they're tense, and it's different journey with them, right? So, going back to your question, I don't know if that's helping, because, as I said, like, it's definitely giving them the guideline. But if, the person have this very specific, I don't know, approach, or, they kind of, like, I don't know, they're stressed. I wished I would help them, but yeah, like, I'm not, I'm truly not sure if this is really helping. I hope it does, but definitely, from my perspective, I'm trying to give them everything what I can to prepare them better for the session. Okay, next question. Yes, at the end, I don't know, but like I'm trying to do everything what I can to help them, right? Um, but you know what? I think if they read it, that's the first thing. If they do or they don't, I don't know. Definitely give them some kind of like peace of mind. But everything comes down to their personality and like how they feel about the session, how they, at the end of the day, I'll get the shots. That's not a problem. How much that's helping them, that's another story. That would be kind of good thing to test. Yeah. But yeah, that's thank you for the question, because that's also kind of helps me to think about it. When filming, I scroll the timeline. Okay, best expressions, quite easy. Okay, yeah. So that's fantastic. Yeah, that if you've done this, if you want to share some of this stuff, I would love to see it. Like that would be kind of cool to see the results of filming someone and getting headshot out of it. So yeah, shoot me an email and we can talk more. And yeah, I would love to see what else. If that would be kind of something I could try. Yeah, I would love to do that. Um, don't you find constant lighting aggressive for the models? It's got to be real bright, right? Um, you know what? I don't think. Well, it's aggressive at the beginning because the lighting I've been using is softened, right? So like you have some kind of like it's not just a straight constant light, shooting at them. You have softbox. You have so it's kind of like strobe, but it's not flickering, or it's not like you're not um basically it stays there, right? So I found from my experience, a lot of those clients when they come in, they have a little bit of like, oh my god, it's so bright for the first few minutes, like 5 minutes, they like their eyes just adjusting to the lighting, and then it's good. Also, I'm not using my lighting on the full power. Typically, it's about, I would say, 50 to 70% max. So it's not as kind of like really, really full power, blasting them with the lighting. I'm trying to kind of keep the balance, and keep it at the level where it's not kind of like affecting them as much. But I found most of my clients, and as I said, like I've been shooting constant lighting for the last, I would say, 4 years around. Yeah, typically the beginning is a little bit harsh if someone with sensitive eyes, but I never had anyone crying, or it didn't have anyone like like affecting their eyes so much that they couldn't handle it. Typically, as I said, it takes a little bit of time, and then no, I'm using around 100 ISO. Yeah, I don't change ISO at all. Yeah, it stays. I could, but then yeah, like what's the point? Yeah. Any other questions? Perfect. Okay, I think no more questions. So again, thank you everyone for staying that long. I was planning to do this for about an hour, but we push it a little bit more. Um, I hope that was interesting. I hope this gives you like a new approach and new understanding how to look for face expressions and then how to kind of deal with them. If you have any questions, any concerns, anything what I said, if there's anything more to it you would like to know, please feel free to reach out to me. I'll be more than happy to answer all your questions. And yeah, thank you for spending the Sunday morning with me. I truly appreciate it. And yeah, thank you again. And I will do another one. If you have any suggestions when it comes to the next one, what would like to what type of topics you'd like me to cover, I'll be more than happy to do that. And yeah, thank you again. And yeah, let's stay in touch. And thank you again. I truly appreciated your time. Okay, take care, guys, and thank you for watching. Bye bye.